Hello and welcome to this new video. As you have probably seen, I have had a bit of a break over Christmas, and then I did bring out that video of looking through all of the sketches that I had done last year. If you haven't seen that, then card will be linked in the top. So I thought, seeing as it's like halfway through, well, more than halfway through January, I thought I'd better do a little update video. I am intending on trying to upload some shorts, because I have been doing little reels on Instagram, 60 seconds, which seem to have been doing quite well if I manage to upload them at the right time, which seems to be a Sunday morning. And as soon as I've got those, I might just pop those up onto the YouTube channel, see how they do, see how they affect subs. The jury's out for me on whether they actually do help your channel or not, because obviously if you're subscribing for a 20-minute video to see what I do and the vlog and stuff, you're not necessarily going to watch the shorts, and the people who watch the shorts aren't necessarily going to watch the long videos. But we'll see how it goes. I taught the first art class of the year today, and so I'll show you quickly what I produced in the class, and I've made a couple of sketches from that painting as well with my new materials. This is the painting that I did, and the photograph that it was from had like purple sky, but the lady who came and did the class, she preferred the blue, so she did blue. So that's just watercolour, 12 by 8. And then for my birthday recently, I got some gouache paints, which I'd asked for because it's been a while since I've tried gouache, and I do watch a couple of people who use gouache, and I've been using my acrylic inks as well. So I have done like a swatch in here, and then today, in fact it's probably still a bit damp, I have done a gouache painting of the painting that I did. I think I like it. Still trying to work out how to use the gouache. I think I want to kind of use them at light watercolours, but they don't necessarily blend as well, especially on this paper. A few days ago I'd done this acrylic ink painting, 10 minutes, with magenta as a base under the, I think it was olive green that I used, and I really liked that. So what I have done is kind of blended the two together. Now I think I've put a slightly too much magenta in here but this is the magenta with the olive green over the top, and then it is primary red gouache mixed with ultramarine gouache for the sky and these bits and some of the darker bits, and a little bit of burnt sienna added in as well. So that's what I have been playing with the gouache paints. And just look at the colour of that water. I love it. I've been doing a little bit of finishing off of a couple of paintings. This one is the one that I showed you earlier that I did with the art class student last week. So I've just darkened the tree a little bit. I was going to use black ink on it, but I've actually just used watercolour. Not the ivory black from the set that we used in the class, but I can't remember if it's ivory black, but whatever it is in my other set. But just darken that just to give it a little bit more definition. I do love the texture that I've got in the field here, and that was just using red and blue to make the purple, and kind of putting neat colour on as well. And then this is a painting from another watercolour landscape class from last year that I said I was going to finish, and it's still on the watercolour board, so I thought I better get it finished so I can use the board, although I do need to buy a couple more because I've got to the end of a couple of them for the classes. But I've just darkened the mountains here and put a little bit more shadow in kind of this bit here, because the reference picture is quite dark, but I didn't want to make this completely dark, so I think I'm happy with that. I've been experimenting more with sketchbooks, and this is a little sketch that I did on the 2nd of January on a walk with my son, and this was a 5-minute sketch at St Mary's Island. A different view that I've painted. I have got a couple of paintings of the lighthouse, but what I've done for the first time is I've actually painted it in watercolour from the sketch, so no reference as to what the colours are, other than I kind of knew that this was a grassy area at the top and this was rocks, and there's a bit of grass here, so it's just kind of my knowledge of the place, and made the sky more purpley. And actually this one I was just using colours left on my palette, of my travel palette, so that's why I decided to kind of make it into a sunrise, so that's why it's got kind of yellow in there, and I'm pretty pleased with that. So then I went on, and from that one went on into my larger Royal Talons sketchbook, and kind of, because I like both compositions. I liked the original portrait composition with this rock in the bottom, but I also do like the square one as well. So I'll have to decide which one I want to do, because I'm definitely going to make this into a painting. So just strengthened the colours a bit and just experimented with some red neutralising some of the greens and the browns in the rocks, just to give it a little bit of a stronger colour. And then I decided to try out my gouache a bit thicker than the previous ones, because the previous ones were quite watered down, after having watched a video on how to use gouache paint, because it has been a while. And yeah, I quite like it. If you get the consistency kind of not quite thick enough, you do see the brush marks, but I don't think that I'm that mad about that. I think it's quite nice maybe to see the texture of the brush strokes. And I've tried experimenting with kind of the lighter colours over the darker ones. I wasn't quite sure about this when I'd finished it, but I've had it kind of propped up in the studio and I really quite like it. I like the strength of it, the darkness, because I do sometimes feel that my watercolours are quite light, and I can't get the density, the darkness of colour that I want in the shadows. But it does kind of feel like night and day to me. But the next step will be doing watercolour with some gouache over the top for the details. This is what I've got so far, watercolour, so I'm just gonna do some gouache over the top of this. Not quite sure how I want to do it, because I corrected the lighthouse here to make it a bit skinnier. I might just have to rub that out with pencil, because I think if I put the gouache on the top to make the sky darker, I don't want it as dark as this, because then I'll lose the wateriness of the watercolour. But let's see how it goes, and I'll be back with you. As you saw from that little clip, this is the finished gouache over watercolour sketch, and yeah, I think I like it. I was worried that I had gone over a lot of the watercolour. I think if I hadn't have made a mistake on the Lighthouse, I possibly wouldn't have gone over the sky, so that would have been watercolour and rather than gouache. But I think I probably will use the gouache translucently, quite watery like I have here, because it does go over the watercolour quite nicely. It layers, and yeah, I'm not sure about this area here, but I think it needs a little bit more experimenting with, but I think it is nicer than just the gouache. There's certainly the colours that I've used, because I think there's a slightly wider range of colours, and I still love this. I mean, it might be that I stick to watercolours for my landscapes, but I think it's a nice medium between these two. So get it a little bit darker than this, but not quite as dark as this. And then I had some gouache left over from this painting, so I just did a background in my sketchbook, and I had some gouache left over from this painting and did this, which was Room Portrait Club. So I quite like it as a still life. I think the gouache is quite good just simplifying things rather than being blended. So it might be that I use it and try and do some still lives. I haven't done still lives for a while, but I don't really want to change my landscape style that much because I like it loose and watery. Do it darker to begin with, or as dark as I can to begin with the watercolour, and then just do little details with the gouache to still keep it watery and loose. But I might do some more still lives. Don't know how popular they'll be, but there we are. So that's where I was up to this morning with my experimenting. Delivery. I realised at the watercolour landscape class last week that 2 of my blocks were on the last piece of paper, so I've had to order some more. I've got 3 of those, and I think the other 2 things that I ordered must be in this package here. This is really weird stuff. Oh, going on forever. I decided to get 2, oh wow, that's really, oof, 2 more acrylic inks, a red and a yellow, so that then I've got a little bit more of a range of colours, because I've kind of got blues and greens and a brown and purples, and yeah, I thought these would be good with that range, so I will swatch those. Made a start on the final painting for the St Mary's Island and decided to go with the square format. So this is the watercolour base. I'm hoping that these anomalies in the paper don't show up too much when it's finished, because obviously I've done the square format. I don't mind them in the sky because they're going kind of with the the sky, if you know what I mean. Well, unfortunately, I think I have pushed this a little bit too far in the foreground. I've put too much gouache over the watercolour and I've just completely lost the kind of lightness that this one had. I know I've done slightly different colours, but yeah, I don't like that at all. Maybe time to start again. Okay, I have done a second rendition of the Lighthouse with watercolour and gouache on top. I have literally just finished it and was aware that I needed to get this last clip recorded and a video out to you because it has been weeks and weeks, so I haven't really formulated any thoughts on it other than I'm not quite sure that gouache is for me for landscapes. I think it just doesn't blend as nicely, and I'm not used to kind of having to change the style to make it more flat. So yeah, this might grow on me. I do prefer it to the original. Other than the sky, I really like the sky in the original one. But yeah, I think I do prefer this one because I have left more of the watercolour coming through and I haven't used the gouache too heavy-handedly. But yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Life's still a bit hit and miss at the minute. Lots of things to do, but hopefully I shall see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!